And welcome, Hoosier Nation, to our 69th episode of the Hoosier Sound, where we are the official podcast of Indiana HQ. Our mission and goal is simple. We want to bring in-depth analysis and coverage for Indiana University sports to as many fans as possible across a multitude of modern platforms. We're recording this edition of the Hoosier Sound on January 1st, 2019, and I am your host, Matthew Lukens, and I am here tonight with the one and only Nithin Krishnan. Say hi.
Hey everyone, Happy New Year.
Yeah, I know. It's 2019, which I don't think it's going to take me 3 months to get used to writing 2019 on anything. So catch me in March. Anyways, if you want to see us live, participate in the ongoing chat, catch us Tuesday evenings at 8:30 p.m. on our YouTube page or our website. If you miss us live, then you can subscribe to us for free on whatever platform you choose to listen to podcasts, so you can listen on your own time. Check out our Twitter and Facebook at the Hoosier Sound and Indiana HQ, and subscribe. All of the information is our website, indianahq.com. All right, Hoosier Nation, it's time for some sports talk. On the docket tonight, we're going to be diving into the January Gauntlet for Indiana basketball. They've got some tough games coming up, so we're going to cover that. But first, as we always do, it's my memorable monologue about IU sports. And so for this week, we're going to be covering basketball. So you already know it's not going to be about basketball. What could it possibly be about? Mike DeBoer. And we've been waiting since the end of football season to see what they have done. I, of course, have been one of the leading people on the internet who has led the charge for Mike DeBoer to leave, retire, get fired. I don't care. Get out of the program, or at least stop play calling for that matter. And I think it was this Friday. It was this Friday, right? I'm not hallucinating. It was this Friday.
It was on Sunday.
It was on Sunday? It was on Sunday.
Yeah.
Whatever. This weekend. So therefore you can't call me out that I was wrong. This weekend, Indiana football announced that Mike DeBoer was retiring. Too much applause, I must say. The Crimson Cast and the rest of the podcast, I think, have already covered this a little bit. But anyways, Mike DeBoer is retiring after 39 years of coaching. I wish him well in retirement. And just because I don't like Mike DeBoer, the way he calls plays, doesn't mean that Mike DeBoer wasn't a wonderful person and a great person for the program. So I do hope that they keep him around in some capacity, especially as a coach with 39 years of experience. Like, he knows how to, do a lot of things very well, obviously, because you're not going to coach at Michigan and Tennessee and then not be like a decent coach. So having him around would be nice in some sort of capacity, but it would be nice for him to be not calling plays next year, even though I do think we'll still go 5-7 because of our gauntlet of a schedule next year. But, at least there's some promise. We have young pieces coming in. Nobody decommitted because he stopped calling. He's leaving. We have great recruits coming in. Hopefully another one in David Bell coming in, another piece that our new offensive coordinator can look for. And speaking of the new offensive coordinator, I really hope that we go out and find somebody. I really hope that President McRobbie puts it out that he wants IU to be not a power in college football, but he wants us to be a power within the Big Ten and a presence, and a little more than we have been in the past. And so forwarding some money for a better offensive coordinator and maybe even raising Tom Allen's salary in order to bring up the pressure on his job would be ideal. Will that happen? That is yet to be seen, because throwing money at a program that hasn't done well is probably not in the president's best interest. But it would be in the best interest of the program for us to go out and get somebody like Major Applewhite, who was fired from Houston, or go after a multitude of other, quarterback coaches or whatnot at plenty of other universities. So that being said, it's great. I won't be complaining about us running up the middle on 3rd and 10 or a screen pass on 3rd and 13 anymore. Though I'm pretty sure I'll probably find something else to complain about with the offense, knowing myself. But at least it won't be Mike DeBoard calling the plays. So with that, I'm going to pass it off to Nithin and ask, do you have anything else to add? Did I cover everything? Or am I just rambling?
No, you're good. No, I think you covered the bases pretty well, Matt. And, it's always a big deal whenever you have a coordinator change.
Right.
In fact, a few days earlier, IU had promoted someone at a defensive coordinator position because Tom Allen didn't want to sort of assume those roles coming up in 2019. So, Kane Womack was promoted from the linebackers coach to the defensive coordinator a few days earlier. As far as Mike DeBoard goes, I don't know if I hold the same disdain for him that you do. But with that said, I think it's pretty clear that, IU's offense needed to elevate its play last year, and it didn't. I had heard so much going into last year about the running game, and Peyton Ramsey was going to have his first full season under center, and you're going to get Nick Westbrook back from injury, and Donovan Hale is there, and Luke Timian's there. I mean, it was supposed to be an offense that stepped up. Instead, they took a step back. If you look at the S&P rankings, which are sort of some advanced stats that rate every team in college football by offense, defense, and special teams, IU went from 60th in the country on offense in 2017 down a few spots to, I think it was 75th in 2018. And at the end of the day, that's just not good enough. You've got to be a better program than that on the offensive side of the ball. And that's what this new hire is going to have to do. There's plenty of talent on this IU roster next year from the offensive side. You're going to get Ramsey back. Mike Penix hopefully will rehab perfectly from his knee injury. You're going to have a wide receiver group that looks very interesting with Nick Westbrook and Ty Freifogel, who emerged last year, Donovan Hale, Whop Fillier. The running game, wow. I mean, Stevie Scott, what a super season he had in the fall. Ronnie Walker had a good season in his freshman year. And then you bring in some freshmen coming up, like Samson James, for example, and you have quarterback Jack Tuttle, who could possibly be eligible in 2019. So when you look at all the pieces, whoever steps in, whether they promote someone like Grant Hurd or Nick Sheridan on the staff to, or Mike Hart on the staff to an offensive coordinator role, or if they bring someone from outside, there's a lot of talent on this football team. And if Purdue can have a top offense in college football, or a top 25 offensive in college football, and if Maryland can turn out guys like DJ Moore in the NFL, IU cannot hold themselves to a lower standard than that in the seasons to come.
Absolutely. By the way, as we're doing this podcast, Washington just scored a touchdown. With like 50 seconds left. Then they went for a 2-point conversion, and then it got intercepted and almost brought back for what would be like, I don't know.
Oh, the pick two.
Yeah, it would have been 2, but they didn't. Yeah. They didn't. They got tackled. Jake Brown put his body on the line. So now I think they got to do an onside kick and see if they get the ball back. Anyways, That's besides the point. We're recording this at like 8:40 on Tuesday night. So There you go. And you already know what happens if you're listening to this. Okay. So we're going to move on. Get football out of our minds. Now on to the more successful program, IU basketball. And the January Gauntlet. So for the first month of the new year, the Hoosiers will play 8 games total. 5 of them are on the road. So take out Illinois and Rutgers, and there's a stretch where the Hoosiers play 6 straight games against KenPom Top-50 teams, otherwise known as Quadrant 1 wins or Quadrant 1 losses. So that's 5 games in a row. So the first game is Illinois. That's this Thursday, not January 1st. It's January 3rd at home at 7 p.m. on Fox Sports 1. So, Nithin, I'm going to pass it off to you. what is your expectations for this Illinois game?
Yeah, the first thing I would recommend for those who are casual fans or even involved IU basketball fans that want to know more about Illinois, over at Indiana HQ, we just posted a preview on this Illinois game coming up, and I would definitely recommend everyone to go out and read that. It really breaks it down. It shows who's injured for both teams, what to expect, who the rotation guys are. I would definitely look into that. This to me is a big game because it sort of gets the ball rolling. I know we've had a couple of Big Ten games already, but this is sort of the new year. Every game from here on out's a conference game until hopefully the NCAA tournament. So you definitely want to get the ball rolling right. You want to protect your home court, and like you said, Matt, it doesn't matter if Illinois is a team that's supposed to be towards the bottom of the Big Ten. Even the Fighting Illini are sort of a fringe top 100 team in the country, and that's not a team you can take for granted. I'm somewhat glad that this is kind of a game where you're coming off a long break, so it's not like you played a couple days ago or you played in a huge conference rivalry a few days earlier. You can focus on this game Thursday, hopefully get a win, and then move ahead to a big game on Sunday. But again, as far as Illinois goes, can't take them for granted. I mean, right now, if you take the KenPom ranking seriously, they're rated better than teams like Wichita State. How about Furman? Furman was ranked just a week or two ago, and Illinois is rated higher than they are. So they're going to cause some problems, and IU's got to be ready to go. We know the slow starts have been a little bit of an issue. We know IU's got to be ready to go on Thursday night.
Yeah, definitely looking out for Romeo's fellow freshman, 5-star Ayo Donsumu, which I finally figured out how to pronounce his name. That being said, I probably said it wrong, and I'm going to look like an idiot. Anyways, so that's Illinois. I'm not too worried.
I'm sorry, not to interrupt. I do think IU will win the game on Thursday.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, there we go. We here at the Hoosier Sound are unanimous in our opinion, because I'm sure Noah's going to say the same thing. If we don't win this game, we have problems, because Illinois is in a world of hurt at this point. Anyways, moving on to a game that I predicted that we would win before I found out that Michigan was really good. Michigan away Sunday, January 6th at 4:30 on CBS. So we have to make the trip this Sunday up to Ann Arbor for the Michigan game. I will be back at school I think the 5th. So I go up on Saturday. I don't know why I looked at my hand like I had a watch on, but yes, I go up on the 5th. So I'll be home in Bloomington watching that game. But I think I'll take it I'll start it off. I predicted in our the Hoosier Sound Predicts the Season episode that we would win this game, and Noah was like, "What are you talking about? There's no way." And now I see exactly what he's talking about, because there's no way we're not gonna win this game. Okay. There's a chance we win this game, but it's a very slight chance that we win this game. If I was a betting man, I'd put money on Michigan to win. Michigan's looking like one of the best 4 teams in the country. They're up there with, in my opinion, Tennessee, Duke, and Nevada. I think would be my top 4 teams that I have right now, off of how they've played this season. Just their defense has been so good, and for a John Beilein team that has good defense, they're going to try to make a Final Four run this year, because if you look back on John Beilein's teams with the best defense have genuinely gone far in tournaments. They have Charles Matthews. Charles Matthews. He's a transfer from Kentucky. He's fantastic. He's great at getting to the bucket, and he's even better at one-on-one defense. So look out for him to make life heck for Romeo this weekend. And other than that, they just hit you with numbers. They have great depth. They have Ignas Bradstakis, who is their freshman from Canada. and he's won Freshman of the Week 3 times now, which is the most of any Big Ten freshman. I think Romeo has 2. So he's definitely been quite the gem and fine for John Beilein. So you have any thoughts, Nithin, before I move on to the next game?
I when Indiana HQ put out our conference predictions, I had it was actually a split decision. A couple people thought IU would win this game. A couple people, one of which was me, thought IU was going to lose. Unfortunately, it just seems like we're running into a buzzsaw right now. And this is why sort of the Illinois game is really big, because if you split the two, you kind of go, all right, well, on to next week. But I'm trying to think of some sort of angle here where IU can win, and it's going to be hard. But you mentioned Charles Matthews is a guy who could guard Romeo Langford. Look, Juwan Morgan almost single-handedly beat Butler.
Yeah.
Obviously, Robert Finney had the buzzer beater that everyone knows about and talks about and will remember forever. But Juwan Morgan was a beast inside. And I think IU is going to need that kind of performance out of Morgan in order to have a shot at this game. Also, we're going to have to track Robert Finney's concussion possibility situation leading into that game on Sunday. If Finney plays and if Morgan has a 30-point outing, I'm not saying Michigan is weak inside defensively. I just think that's the angle IU is going to have to take. Then maybe, just maybe, we'll be celebrating on Sunday night.
Yes, I definitely agree with what you said about Juwan needing to be a beast. Yeah, we're definitely going to need Ignas Bratskakis to look like a freshman that he is when he plays Juwan down low. And Juwan's going to need to get some of their other big guys in foul trouble. All right. Moving on, the next game is, so we both agree that's going to be a loss, right?
Yeah, I think IU's going to split the first week.
Okay. All right. So then we move on to the Maryland game, which is Friday, January 11th. So they get a nice 4 or 5 day break. And that's away at 7 p.m. on Fox Sports 1. And Noah says he will be in attendance for this game. So look out for Noah on TV in his IU basketball jersey. Anyways, so why don't you start off, Nithin? What are your thoughts on Maryland and the fact that we have 2 away games in a row?
Yeah, it's never easy when you have sort of that back-to-back road trip in the Big Ten. But I'm looking forward to seeing how IU does with these extra couple of days off. I think those Friday night games are always a little bit tough, but Maryland has to play at Minnesota on Tuesday night. So they're going to have 2 days off before playing IU on Friday night, whereas IU is going to have a couple extra days. Maryland's good. They're no Michigan, though. And I think, the Terps, as recently as a couple of Saturdays ago, showed that they're a little bit vulnerable. They lost to Seton Hall at home. This Maryland team is not as deep as I think I think we thought they were at the start of the season. And for that reason, I think IU's going to go out to College Park and knock off the Terps with no one in attendance on that Friday night.
You know what? I have to agree with you here. I think Anthony Cohen is going to be a slight bit of a nightmare for our point guards. He's just shifty and is, really good at getting to the basket. But it's not something that we haven't seen before, right? Like we played Marcus Howard this year, and look what he did to Buffalo last week. He had 40 points and a half. And against us, he had I think he had 19 points, but he shot awful against us. He could not get by Rob Finney that whole game. Rob was making sure that he wasn't getting good cuts to the basket. And I think the same thing is going to happen with Cowan. Bruno Fernando's a big guy inside that can score. We've played big guys inside that can score this year, and one has given us a problem, and the other one was in the Butler game, and Juwan manhandled him. So it's really a 50-50 situation whether he's going to give us a lot of problems in Bruno Fernando and also Jalen Smith. the 5-star freshman power forward. He's decent, but I wouldn't expect him to give us too much trouble. Though, if you have Fernando and Smith out on the court, that's a lot of height, and so look for Deron Davis to get a lot of time during this game. But I also think this is going to be a win, and this is going to be a good win because I think Maryland matches up very well against a lot of the smaller teams in the conference, and so they'll end up with a good record at the end of the year in the Big Ten. I think they'll be in the top 5 or 6, or no, like the 5 to like 7 range. I think that's exactly where Maryland lies. So look for them to be there. All right, moving on from Maryland. So we both think that's a win, right? We both think that's a win?
Yes, I agree.
Okay. All right, moving on. We got Nebraska, Monday, January 14th, at home at 6:30 on Fox Sports 1. Man, we really like Fox Sports 1 this year. So I'll start off with Nebraska. Nebraska has actually been very good this year. I know that's surprising. Nebraska ball, what is that? I didn't even know they had a basketball team. But no, seriously, Nebraska's been very good this year. They're led by James Palmer Jr. I think he's a senior, right? I think he's a senior. At 19.6 points per game. Isaac Copeland has also been very good for them. He's at 14.5 points per game. They're a very athletic team. They like to get up and down the court. They play pretty good defense as well. And they're also 11-2 this year. So just like us. So look out for them to be a little bit of trouble at home. But I honestly think that Assembly Hall is one of the hardest places to play, obviously. So I expect us this year to win almost every single home game. And this is no different. This game is no different. So I expect us to beat Nebraska. I think it'll be a close game again because they have 4 guys, Palmer, Copeland, Watson, and Roby. They all score 10 points a game. So it's going to be really tough on, our 4 best defenders. But I think we're a deeper team than they are. So I think in the long run, over the time of the game, I think we'll get it done defensively. I think Archie will have a good game plan for them. I think we should pull it out at home. So what do you think, Nithin?
Yeah, I think IU wins this game. So I agree with you there. This means IU's gonna jump out to a 3-1 start in January, which would be 5-1 in Big Ten play, which would be fantastic. I think you sort of hit the nail on the head as far as Nebraska goes. They've got a 3 or 4 headed monster that is responsible for most of their offense, almost all of their offense.
Yeah.
And it's all upperclassmen: Palmer, Copeland, Watson, and Roby. Again, I mean, look, if you have tickets to this game and you're a student, I mean, go crazy because, I know there's a Michigan game at Assembly Hall at the end of January. Let this serve as a dress rehearsal. Assembly Hall should be rocking for this game because Nebraska's a good basketball team. If you look at the KenPom ratings, they have a top 15 offense right now in the country. It's going to be high flying. It's going to be perhaps a bit of a track meet. Although, look, if IU wins this game, it probably comes on the basis of their defense. So,
right.
This is a big game. I mean, in other years, I understand Nebraska may not have been a top-notch Big Ten team, but this year, for all we know, this could be the difference between getting a double bye in the Big Ten tournament and skipping the first couple of days or having to play a tough, nasty team like Minnesota or something in Chicago, which who wants to do that?
Nobody wants to do that. All right. So I think we both think that's a win, though. Am I right? I can mark that down. Okay. Moving on. Next game is Purdue. And I think this is our 5th game of the 8-game stretch. So that's Saturday, January 19th. That's away, 2 p.m. on Fox. So we get national television for a Purdue IU game. And when you look at Purdue, they're 8-5, but Nithin, they're a little bit better than 8-5, right? Like, in your opinion?
I don't know. Can I pass on that question? I know
Yeah,
that's
you can pass. He didn't know I was asking this before, but
it
I have an
doesn't
answer
matter.
for it. But yeah,
I mean, I'm cool with sort of impromptu questions. I'm fine with that. I honestly don't know the answer to this because, I mean, they're better than, if you look at the computer models, they do rate out to be a top 25 team, kind of wherever you look. But I watched the Boilermakers play, and I saw them against Notre Dame, for example, in the game before IU played Butler, and Notre Dame was kind of in control the whole way. So I don't know. I mean, I look at this team and I remember freshly, last year they were one of the best teams in the conference. But, this is a new season. I don't know.
yeah, I don't know either. They're like looking at them. Carson Edwards averages 26 points per game, like 25.8 points per game. Like, that's insane. And like, he has an off night. Where's the scoring going to come from? His next guy up has 13 points. That's Ryan Klein. And then it jumps all the way down to like 7.7 points per game. Like, where are you going to get the scoring from if Carson Edwards isn't scoring and he's not creating? Like, I don't understand. This Purdue team is, I don't know. It's confusing to me. And their starting point guard shoots 47% from the line. Like, what? Excuse me? It's very confusing to me. I think their record is about what they deserve, which is 8-5. Um, and I don't expect this to be actually that bad of a test. I think the worst thing about going to Purdue is the crowd. But I think we honestly, like I said, we've played Marcus Howard like this year, and we did a really good job of, controlling him. Now Carson Edwards is an entirely different beast. Like, he is maybe just a step above, Howard, and that's saying something. But like, I still think if he has an off game, like, we're winning by 30. It's like not even close. They don't have anybody that can match up against Juwan Morgan. Matt Harms plays 18 minutes, 19 minutes a game, and only averages like 1.5 blocks for a guy 7 foot. Like, I don't know. Like, I just don't see them having the rim protection that they need for, to go up against Juwan Morgan. And he's not the most agile defender either. So, he gets switched on a pick and roll with Romeo. Like, watch out, because Romeo and his 7-foot wingspan is going to be able to get a shot over, a 7-footer. Yeah, I don't see this not being a win for IU. I think it's going to be a tough environment, but I think once the game starts going, I think IU will pull away. How about you, Nithin?
Well, Matt, unfortunately, I think
really?
we're gonna hit our first disagreement of
Okay.
of the day. It's it, look, Carson Edwards is really good, and I understand, like, if he struggles, um, you know, Purdue's opponent always has a chance. But I don't know. I don't see it happening. And there are a couple other things here also. I feel like whenever Purdue and IU are good, if Purdue comes to Bloomington, I feel like IU's role players kind of elevate their game. When IU goes to West Lafayette, I feel like the other side of the deal happens. I remember when Purdue, as highly ranked as they were, when they came to Bloomington last year, we saw, Freddie McSwain play well, and Al Durham had a good game, and Justin Smith was problematic for Purdue. I have a bad feeling it's going to kind of be that way, but for the Boilers against IU. So I could see Ryan Klein having a great shooting day. I could see Matt Harms avoiding foul trouble and maybe getting a couple more blocks than usual. So for that reason, I'm going to side with I think Purdue's going to win this one. I hope I'm wrong. I really do. But and another factor here is that the preceding game for Purdue is home against Rutgers. Whereas as we just talked about, IU's facing either on the road to Maryland, and then they come back and play Nebraska. I just think at some point here, that gauntlet that we sort of started our conversation with is going to come back to bite the Hoosiers, and I think it's going to be in this game.
Okay, that's fair. But I think it's going to come back to bite them in the next game, which is Northwestern Tuesday, January 22nd, away at 9 p.m. on BTN. So here's why I think that Northwestern is going to come back to bite us after having to play all those tough games. We play all those tough games in a row, and we go on the road to Northwestern, to a team that, as we all know, gave us a lot of trouble early on this year at Assembly Hall, and it took a running, last second Romeo layup to kind of put that game out of reach of Northwestern. They're led by Vic Law. They're a really awesome shooting guard that they have, who averages, 19 points per game, 6.5 rebounds a game, while shooting 40% from three. And then Derek Pardon, who had like 30 points against us when he played us, who was averaging 13.8 points per game. And Ryan Taylor, the grad transfer that we were looking at last year, who plays 31 minutes a game and is averaging 13 points per game. I think that this is the game where we finally are just so tired, so burnt out, and this catches up to us because it is also a trap game because of our next game that we'll talk about in a second, which is the Michigan game at home. So I think we go away to Northwestern, and this is a game in which we trip up. In my mind, it was between the Purdue or the Northwestern game, and I don't think we're going to lose both of them because we're just going to lose one or the other, and then Archie will get us back in shape. But I think this is the game. We go to Northwestern, and I think we lose this game. What do you think, Nithin?
You hit it. You were right there. You're right there. I think you said, lose to Purdue, beat Purdue, lose to Northwestern. I'm going to say the opposite.
Okay.
I think we're going to lose to Purdue, but I think we're going to beat Northwestern. And one of the reasons for this is, I remember watching. I think I watched every minute of that first matchup between Northwestern and IU, and it just felt like nothing was in sync for the Hoosiers. It was one of those noon starts on a Saturday afternoon, sort of in the middle of, I think it was in early December. I mean, it didn't feel like IU was hitting on all cylinders. I think that'll change after losing to Purdue a few days earlier. I think they're going to come out a little bit more motivation, a little bit more fire, and look. Normally, as is the case when you go to Northwestern, there are going to be a good number of Hoosier fans in attendance, and I think that'll carry IU to a close victory over the Wildcats.
I have to interrupt the podcast for a second. So some sad news just happened. Came out on Twitter about a minute ago. I'm actually glad I kind of went through Twitter this second. But as you know, Tyler Trent has been a pretty influential person this year and pretty inspiring person as far as the world of sports goes this year. Sadly, Tyler Trent has passed away today. So I just, prayers out to Trent family and, our Purdue brethren. I'm so sorry for your loss. And, he's an inspiration to many. So I hope that, his message of love and perseverance continues on, even though that he has left us. Anyways, that's hard to move on from. But now we move on to the Michigan game. So on with the podcast. Michigan, Friday, January 25th, home at 6:30 on FS1. Nithin, now that I've completely killed the air of the podcast, what are you expecting from this game?
Yeah, no, that was shocking to see just now. That's really just sad to see. But
yeah,
as far as this Michigan game goes, I think this is sort of the headliner game of the month for IU. Obviously the rivalry game at Purdue is going to be a big deal. But I don't think Michigan's gonna lose until this game at Assembly Hall. I think they're gonna come in undefeated, and I think even if it's a close loss at Michigan, I think the home court sort of flips this thing in Indiana's favor. I just, IU always seems to play well against Michigan at home. Assembly Hall is going to be going crazy. We saw what kind of impact that can have against Marquette. So all in all, I think IU is going to come out with the win. I think this is going to be Romeo Langford's best game as an Indiana Hoosier. I think he's going to learn from some mistakes that he makes in the road game at Michigan, and I think he's going to put up a 30 burger in this one.
Yeah, I also agree with you. I think this is the game in which Michigan finally loses, and if it's not, I'm going to be very sad. This is definitely Romeo's coming out party. I think he finally turns around his 3-point shooting this game, and he just goes off. And definitely propels us to what is a season-defining victory against Michigan. All right, so moving on after this game, I'm glad that we both agreed on that, by the way. I was going to say that, and then you said that. All right, bringing life back to the podcast. Okay, Rutgers is the next game and the last game of the 7-game stretch, which is Wednesday, January 30th, away, 7 p.m. on BTN. I'm just going to make this one short. Do you think we have any chance of losing against Rutgers?
Well, so there's a chance, but I think IU will win this one. Here's the deal: Rutgers is still sort of a fringe top 100 team like Illinois is, and obviously we're going to be playing them at their place. But at the end of the day, there could be a letdown, especially if IU does knock off Michigan. But when it's all said and done, you're going into Rutgers with more with more talent than they have, and I think that's going to play itself out over 40 minutes. Rutgers will put up a fight, and I don't think it'll be a blowout by any means. I think it'll be a close game, but I think IU will execute down the stretch like we've seen at earlier points this year and come out with a win in New Jersey.
All right. Well, we have some questions now. Let me pull these up on my phone. We have 2 questions from I'm going to butcher this name. Abhinav Ravi. I think I said that right.
You did. Well, close. It's Abhinav.
Abhinav? Okay.
Yeah, I know who he is. He's a fan of the show.
Okay. Fan of the show, Abhinav. All right. So his first question was your thoughts on a football equivalent of the Crosstown Classic. He actually has 2 questions, but this is the first one. Your thoughts on a football equivalent of the Crosstown Classic at Lucas Oil Stadium every year, maybe sub Ball State instead of Butler. So I'm going to ask you, Nithin, I'm going to pitch you this question. So what are your thoughts on this? If you have a Notre Dame, Purdue, IU, Ball State, like round robin between, Indiana playing Notre Dame and Indiana playing Ball State every other year. What do you think about that?
Yeah. First of all, shout out to Munster, Indiana. That's where the question comes from. But I think, well, first of all, IU would never play Purdue because of the conference schedule. Right. So it would be the same format as the basketball tournament in Indianapolis every December. I think this would be an interesting idea. I've always wanted sort of, at first I thought it was kind of silly that Notre Dame stopped playing Notre Dame stopped playing Purdue. And I've always wondered why IU doesn't play Notre Dame every now and then in football. I'll tell you, I don't think Notre Dame will agree to this, but if they do, I do think it would be an incredible atmosphere at Lucas Oil Stadium. Ball State is usually no slouch. And then, of course, you have your big time matchup with IU or Purdue against Notre Dame. It would be an awesome spectacle for Indianapolis, and someone will end up with a decent non-conference win every year.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea, and especially it would be a great recruiting tool for Purdue and IU. To say, hey, we play Notre Dame twice in your 4 years here. That's great. that's sell that to the recruits. Playing top programs in the Big Ten, then also playing Notre Dame, who with conference realignment, who knows what conference they're going to be in. Anyways, moving on to his second question, which was, how does Jeff Brom affect IU football recruiting? And so I'm going to take this one, which is that Jeff Brom and Purdue recruit different people than IU recruit for the most part, except for that in Indiana, trying to get the best guys from the state of Indiana is going to be really hard with Jeff Brom. So Jeff Brom really likes to go to Texas to find his recruits. He likes to go, to other states to find his recruits, but he also likes the Indiana guys. And so, as you've seen, with George Krafatelis going to Purdue, and he's the top guy from Indiana, who was originally committed to Michigan and then decommitted and went to Purdue. And then the second top guy, which is David Bell, who we are obviously neck and neck for with Purdue. So, competing for those top guys in the States can be really hard with, a world-class coach and Jeff Brom being at Purdue. On the other hand, he doesn't go to Florida. So being able to get our top recruits in Florida, some of the guys that are standing out on our team are from the state of Florida. And I don't think that'll be a problem at all as far as IU football recruiting goes. But, and hey, if Purdue becomes a national power, and becomes really good, like I think they will become. They'll be like a top 3 or 4 team in the Big Ten in the next coming years. Like that increases IU football recruiting because people want to go beat them. So I think having Purdue good, making Purdue good is also making IU good at the same time, and that's not a bad thing because it's just more competition. Anything to add, Nithin? Before we finish up.
That was an interesting way to look at it. I didn't really think of that at all. If the Boilermakers are better, that might intrigue some in-state in-state kids or Midwestern players to come to IU and try to knock them off. And
right.
And that hopefully is the motivation for a lot of high school juniors and seniors around the Midwest. But look, if I could give a one-word answer to this, it would be, I still think it's negatively. In other words, as long as Jeff Brom is Purdue's football coach, unless IU hits an absolute home run with this offensive coordinator hire, they're probably going to have a better offense than IU does. In fact, just this season, if you look at the S&P statistic, Purdue had the 16th best offense in the country, and they might go up or down a spot or two based on the remaining bowl games. But
their bowl game performance.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you that. I mean, it's already updated for that.
Oh, really?
They got smoked by Auburn. But even after that, they're still the 16th best offense in the country, and that's better than teams like Texas A&M and Oregon and Michigan. So as long as Brom's there, it's going to cause a problem for IU. But I did like the points you made. How if the Hoosiers remain strong in Florida, which is where Tom Allen has a lot of roots there, or around the state of Indiana, where Coach Allen's done well so far. When you look at getting guys like Cameron Williams, for example, in the 2019 class, that's a good. Those are all good signs going forward. But the one guy you mentioned, David Bell, he is a huge player in all of this. He might be good enough to swing it in one way or the other. He's got a ton of high major offers. He's a local guy from Indianapolis, Warren Central High School. Purdue and IU are sort of neck and neck right now. We don't know how it's going to go. So, this is a guy who could almost solely swing this answer in one way or the other.
Absolutely. All right. And that about wraps up our 69th show of the Hoosier Sound. Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate the support. I will be back this Friday for another edition of the Hoosier Sound Off. I won't, but Noah will, who made this script that I am now reading off of. So I apologize. Anyways, make sure to stay tuned through updates on Twitter at the Hoosier Sound. Subscribe to us on Twitter or however you listen to podcasts, and visit our website, thehoosiersound.com, to find out more information in one place. As always, send us your questions as the audience. Be sure to comment, chat, and send us a message on at admin@indianahq.com on what questions you have, and we'll answer them on the next show. Lastly, if you enjoy our show, leave us a review, tell a friend, share our links. Your support really helps us grow the podcast and reach even more passionate IU fans. But as always, thank you for listening, Hoosier Nation, and we'll see you next time.